honor to be here. A lot of you here, I've either seen your photos, I've read your articles, and to be amongst some of the greats, at least as a 20-year-old, to see your work, it's really an honor. So thank you for having me here. 7 years ago, I had no idea where I would be. I mean, being here on this platform, it's mesmerizing, really. Back in 2009, my grandfather took me to Train Fest 2009 in Owasso. I'm sure a lot of you were there. And for me, it was a great awakening. And to see the Southern Pacific 4449, the beautiful streamlined steam locomotive that I've always seen in magazines and videos, it was amazing. So from that moment on, I decided I want to capture all of this. I want to capture what I'm feeling and share it with the world. So my presentation today is all about basically how I took this idea, put it out there because I wanted to share my passion just like you guys do, but in the form of digital media, not print media. And really, my generation, our whole world really revolves around these things.
We've noticed.
Yes. Yes, it's really amazing, everything you do. For instance, I checked into this event on Facebook to kind of give it a little bit of promotion. And it's just amazing how networking goes. A lot of my friends in this hobby, I would have never known without Facebook or YouTube. I mean, I get all these crazy YouTube comments, and then I go out and I see these different people on YouTube that I look up to. Evan Loftback's here tonight. Back when I was like 13, I was watching his videos on YouTube. I was like, man, I want to learn how to put these cue cards in my videos and have the CSX or the NS logo pop up with the train symbol. And so seeing everybody here in one room is really cool. So this is my YouTube story. Without further ado, Otto, if I can get the lights. There's 7 chapters, so in between sections, I'm just going to fill in the blanks, so to speak.
In order to know my story, you need to know my roots. I was born and still live in a small town called Jackson, Michigan. The one-time home to 7 New York Central lines, Jackson is a mere shell of what it once was. With the golden age of railroading long over for the Michigan line, it still retains some artifacts of a once marvelous era. Still in service is the oldest continuously used passenger rail station in America, along with the former Michigan Central Railroad shops at Jackson Yard. 6 Amtrak trains and the occasional Norfolk Southern local can be seen rolling through town.
So as the lights come on, growing up in Jackson was a pretty great childhood. Jackson is a lot like a lot of South Central Michigan towns. Basically, industry has left, and it's either gone overseas, and it's really a forgotten place. But my hometown used to be this amazing center for industry and manufacturing. We had automobile companies, we had government contractors who would design weapons during the Cold War. Actually, my grandfather worked for a company called Spartan Electronics. New York Central used to deliver all kinds of amazing top secret stuff on this little spur that's now gone, and the Spartan factory is now gone. But I grew up around this town where, there was this amazing past. And I've always been kind of a history nerd. I'm sure everybody here is. I mean, you like trains. That's why you're here. So growing up, I was just fascinated with what used to be. And I was kind of sad, like, man, this is all I'm left with, a couple of local trains every day and Amtrak. I mean, Amtrak. But so at least the misnomer is in Michigan there are no trains. If you want to go see trains, you go to Northwest Ohio to see your trains. But actually in Michigan there are a lot of cool places, and railroad archaeology is kind of a passion of mine. And drone technology, as you've seen, which will come up later in this presentation, has really allowed me to get some just amazing images that 5 years ago really wouldn't be possible unless you had your own airplane. So that was really cool. Now on to the next section.
My first exposure to railroading was as a young boy. My grandfather would often tell me stories about his father, a Southern Railway fireman and later turned engineer from Birmingham, Alabama. My great-grandfather had over 45 years of service with the railroad and even participated in the original Southern Railway steam program shortly before his retirement in 1978. My grandfather sparked my interest in trains as a toddler. Little did I know, I'd still be fascinated years later.
Bruce, we hear that loud and clear. I see you shining coming around the bend now.
And I just see Granddaddy. He's sitting in his chair and just turned the engine off. Now I'm up in the train.
All right, we're inside the engine, Dad. How you feel like coming in on your last run?
I don't know how I do feel.
I don't know how you do feel.
I don't know how.
It's been a good trip?
Good trip. Just don't realize it. It's the last.
So we all have reasons why we end up getting into railroads. I like to joke around and say that I got the bug on day one. My mom and dad, when I was born, they bought my first outfit at a hospital gift shop, and it had a steam locomotive on it. So my mom says that it was fate, but growing up, I always was around railroads, whether I liked it or not. My grandfather was a pastor at a church in Brooklyn, Michigan. Some of you who are into NASCAR might know Brooklyn from Michigan International Speedway. So my grandfather basically moved from South Carolina, where he attended college, and came up to Michigan to get a pastoral job. And that's how my parents ended up meeting, and that's why I was a Yankee instead of a Southerner. So it was a good childhood, and I just remember at Christmas time, my grandfather had this huge G-scale train set, and it was the Southern Crescent, and I always thought it was just so cool because the green and the gold pinstripe. It was just really amazing to me. Just as a 4-year-old kid seeing this steam train run around the Christmas tree, and I'm sure you all have similar experiences of growing up around Christmas time. But I started asking questions, Granddaddy, why this engine? Why the green one? And he told me, he said, well, son, this is basically what I grew up watching. These are the locomotives my daddy ran. And you know he's from the South because they still refer to him as Daddy. And it's just a deep family affection. And my family was really close, and my grandfather would tell me these amazing stories of riding in the cab of F units, you know, between Birmingham and Atlanta. And just growing up, I always heard about stories about this man, Earl Bruce. And I never got to meet him, but my grandmother swears up and down that my grandfather is a spitting image, talks, walks, acts just like him. So it's definitely cool having my grandfather being such a role model in my life. But it really sparked my interest in the history, and I started, you know, researching my family history. Found out my grandfather lied about his age. I'm sure a lot of you have similar stories. Got hired on in the late 20s, early 30s. We're not sure of an exact date, but we think he pretty much had about 50 years under his belt when he retired. He ran everything from Mikados to Malleys, and then of course the diesels came along. He didn't like the diesels so much, and he didn't really like running passenger trains because he didn't think that they were as much of a challenge. At least that's what my grandfather always said that he was told. But because of my grandfather's illustrious career with the Southern, he was invited to partake as a fireman on the Southern 4501 and 722 on some of the original steam programs. And Don Phillips is here, and it's interesting. I never really found any pictures of him with the Southern Steam program, but I had these newspaper clippings and just stories that had basically been passed down. And about 6 months ago, we found a box, a shoe box in the basement, and there was this old, I believe it was a Trains magazine book. Is that what it was? And a lot of Don's photos were in it, and it was really cool to put two and two together, seeing Don here and then remembering finding that book. But just the family history with the railroad is really what got me really into it. And we'll go on to the next segment of how I came into the picture.
At the age of 13, I started filming trains. The footage in this very first scene was recorded on a family vacation to Pennsylvania. With the help of my parents, I bought my first camera and started a YouTube channel that summer. Through middle school, my grandmother would often take me trackside to capture trains for my videos. I wanted to share my passion with the world, and YouTube seemed to be the perfect format. Video allowed me to relive my experiences, and YouTube allowed me to broadcast myself to others, sharing the same passion. I was lucky to have my grandmother so involved with my hobby. She enjoyed trains just as much as I do. If only she were still here today to see how far I've come. These were the early years, and I wouldn't trade them for anything. I started delay in block productions my freshman year of high school, and began to dream up my goal: producing the best railroad videos available on the internet. It took me years to get to where I am today, but this is where it all started. Trackside along the Michigan line with a $100 Sony camera and my grandmother as my chauffeur.
So judging by those first clips, you could tell that I've progressed along quite a ways. I didn't know what a tripod was when I first started out. Basically, I didn't really know anything about railroads at all. It was kind of a trial and error type thing. But thankfully, we have this thing called the internet, and I started picking up on tips and tricks of how to take better pictures, how to take better videos. Really learning from pretty much everybody in this room who's published anything online or in trains or, you know, in Railfan or Railroad. It was a big learning process, and we've all been there. But for me, none of this, none of my success, nothing that I've ever done would have been possible without my late grandmother. She passed away the day after Christmas in 2014. Miss her a lot. She basically took me everywhere. She was widowed, had been widowed for about 12 years at that time, and had nothing going on except Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy in the evenings. And so I called her up one day and I was like, hey, Grammy, I just got this new camera. You think you could take me out and maybe go chase a train with me? And she's like, well, sure, let's go. You want to go to Red Lobster for lunch? So we would call it our dates, and I would go out on dates with my grandmother, and she was such an inspiration to me. I always used to get upset because we'd go chase trains, and she didn't really know what a passing lane was, and we would get stuck behind these slow trucks, and I would just be like, come on, pass them. And she's like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to worry them. Long time, as any grandmother would. So long story short, we ended up getting stranded. The car died in Defiance, Ohio, and I was driving. I had my learner's permit at the time. And we just so happened to glide right into a car dealership in Defiance, and we got the car running. It was an issue with the battery, and then it died again. So we were outside of town, and this pickup truck, those big tow trucks came by. My grandma, she was handicapped, so she couldn't really walk, and for her to get up into the cab of this truck would have been really difficult. So he's like, the driver's like, well, we're really not supposed to let you do this, but I'll let you guys ride in your car. You just sit there, don't do anything. So at this point, I'm in the driver's seat, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, man, we're missing all these trains. I was really sad because our whole day was basically a disaster, and just one thing after another. So we're sitting, driving along Northwest Ohio on the way to Brian, some branded repair shop, and I'm sitting next to her, and she looks over at me and goes, hey, Drake, why don't you go past the truck? and I never forgot that. So she's a big part of who I am, and I take that memory everywhere I go. When I'm behind a semi truck, I think of her. So, but really nothing would have been possible as far as YouTube goes without my grandma. She was available when my parents were both working. It gave her something to do. Took her mind off depression, really. My dad told me, he said, son, if it wasn't for your addiction with railroads, I don't know if my mom would still be around here as long as she has. So that was really cool. But again, my grandma was a big inspiration to me. I started a YouTube channel in 7th grade, and I named it, as any young foamer does, after their favorite steam locomotive. And I named my YouTube channel Southern Railway 4501. And I realized that I wasn't going to get very many hits using that name. And, people looking up the 4501 want to see videos about the 01, not random videos of Amtrak in Michigan. So I had this idea of taking the delay in block rule and calling that my YouTube channel, because my initials are DIB. So that's where that came from. And at a lot of the stations there on the Michigan line, you'll see these little yellow signs with the initials DIB, and that's where I got it from. I think actually my grandma suggested that name to me, but yeah. So on to the next section.
Building an audience on YouTube isn't always easy, but after posting this footage of Amtrak's Wolverine accident at Leone, Michigan in 2012, my channel started to grow. Going viral, the footage of the wreck received around 10,000 views the first day it was online. That was a huge number compared to the 300 or 400 views per day that I was used to. No fatalities occurred in this wreck, but it put the Michigan line out of service for a few days. Another video that garnered a huge success and an invitation into YouTube's partnership program was that of the world's worst maintained railroad, the Maumee and Western of Defiance, Ohio. This short line railroad is now owned by Pioneer and is in much better condition, but at the time it was in some seriously poor shape. In just 1 month, the video received over 60,000 views, and YouTube took notice, asking me to participate in their partnership program in the spring of 2012. YouTube's partnership program allowed me to invest in new equipment through the ad revenue on my channel. They liked the theme and the consistency in my content. The partnership program allowed me to start a legitimate company, and I decided to purchase an aerial drone to enhance the content being featured on my channel. To my knowledge, Delay in Block was the first Railfan YouTube channel to ever feature aerial video via drone. This feat alone brought in thousands of new subscribers and garnered the attention of a certain nonprofit railroad organization from Fort Wayne, Indiana. Indeed, things were looking good for my small production company, but I had no idea the opportunities that laid ahead of me.
So it took a while. I started, again, researching how to take better videos, and I was borrowing from different production companies. Yes, I had all kinds of Pentrex VHS tapes as a kid. So, you know, just seeing how they shot stuff, what kind of angles look better. And as you can tell from the first clip when I started filming, it just was a slow progression. And I had an idea, you know, I really just wanted to tell my story, and at the time, YouTube's slogan, I think it still is, but they don't really promote it that much anymore, was broadcast yourself. And you know, going through middle school and high school as a nerd, your voice doesn't really get heard a whole lot. So the internet seemed really appealing. I could share my hobby with people that had the same interest, like-minded. And I wanted to build my audience. So I started thinking of how could I make videos that people would actually want to watch instead of just, you know, Amtrak at Jackson. So there's this railroad in Northwest Ohio at the time called the Maumee and Western, and you saw some clips there. And they were known for being the world's worst maintained railroad. Just really bad situation. They didn't really maintain their track, and they didn't really have a whole lot of money either. They recently got bought out by Pioneer, but at the time, you'd have rail fans that would go there and take these awesome pictures of like this, you know, GP7U, this old Santa Fe, and just sideways like that going through a jungle. And I was like, man, that would be a cool video. And so I started looking up videos, and no one had really done video of this short line, just pictures. And that's one of the things that I ran into is in this hobby, there are a lot of people that do video, but it's either on this or an iPad, and the wind noise is awful. And I wanted to try and make something that was enjoyable, not just for rail fans, but for people to be like, holy cow, I live here. I didn't realize it was that bad. So, so basically, I went out there with my grandma and on several different occasions and captured that footage. And I put the video up on YouTube and just titled it "The World's Worst Maintained Railroad." And seriously, in like a week, it got like 20,000 views. And for somebody that was only getting like 400, like if I uploaded a video and it got like 157 views, I was like, man, this video is doing good. But after I published that, YouTube took notice. And at the time, back in late 2012, they started testing this thing called the Partnership Program. And what it would do is content creators, people uploading videos to YouTube, not just for railroads, like literally anything, basically could join this program. They would create the content. YouTube would put advertisements in the videos. Yes, the ads that you can't skip, the ones that we all hate on our phones or on our computers. Those videos actually helped me and pretty much everybody else on YouTube either earn a living, pay for school, buy new equipment. It's really how people are consuming media today. And at the time when I was 13, 14, I didn't know what I was getting into, but YouTube did. And they saw that I had an audience that was growing, an audience that would continue to grow, and a common interest. It wasn't just random stuff that I was trying to make go viral. It was, clear, calculated railroad production. So they invited me into this program when I was 14, my freshman year of high school. And basically what they would do is YouTube would take a cut, I would take a cut. YouTube got more because they gave you the platforms. And plus it allowed them to maintain their website. They have huge volumes of storage, so they need to be able to pay for all that storage. But basically YouTube all through high school allowed me to have a pretty exciting job. Basically uploading railroad videos. I turned my hobby into a legitimate company. My sophomore year of high school, I actually filed papers and got my business license for delayed and block productions. So that was really cool, and I was able to actually purchase my first car, which I wrecked chasing 1225. Yeah, there's another segment coming up, but anyway, I should have died. For some reason I didn't, thankfully. Walked away with a couple of scrapes, but YouTube basically allowed me to have a lot of opportunities I otherwise wouldn't have it. So I'm very thankful for that, and it's really allowed me to connect with so many people in this hobby that otherwise I wouldn't have met. So on to the next section.
In this hobby and the industry, we all have mentors. For me, that mentor would help me mature and find success in pursuing film production as a career opportunity. Kelly Lynch, the now Vice President of the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society, took me under his wing, encouraging me to attend film school and even offered me an opportunity of a lifetime, assisting him in the production of Fort Wayne's digital media projects. Through Kelly, I was offered opportunities I never thought possible. Because of my work with Kelly at Fort Wayne, I built relationships with various other contacts in the industry, gaining me special access to steam locomotives on the main line, thus allowing me to produce even better content for my large and ever-growing subscriber base.
Basically, I had great mentors throughout the years, and Kelly was the number one mentor. Kelly is the Vice President of the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society, and what he has done with cinematography and railroads is just amazing. Some of you might have seen the Coke commercial with the 765. That was all Kelly. And while I was in high school, Kelly basically, put his arm around me and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about turning this into an art form?" And he really started making me think, what do I want to do for a career? Is this the only thing I want to focus on? So basically through Callie's influence, I decided to go to film school, and what was really cool about that is YouTube actually allowed me to pay my own tuition. So it was, not a lot of kids could say that, and I became really good friends with the financial aid guy at my college, because he was like, dude, no one could pay their college like you, and I'm like, well, thanks, man, I really appreciate it. So having a hobby that allowed me to get opportunities like that and not be a burden on my parents or the government, it was a really great thing. So, but Kelly was my early influence and somebody that really made me want to take aerial photography and just ground video to another level. A lot of Fort Wayne's video stuff, the ads, different things that you'll see that they release, my footage will be in there. Kelly basically offered me a summer job. Hey, you want to chase 765 around and help me film this documentary? So for the last 2 years, I've been helping Kelly, traveling with the engine, riding in the tool car, interviewing people, interviewing passengers, and none of it really would have been possible without him. So next chapter, and this is my favorite part of my story. After I was involved in that car accident chasing 1225, I, through social media, got in touch with this family who happened to be pretty big fans of my YouTube channel. So here's their story.
Train lovers gathered in Buffalo over the weekend for the historic running of steam locomotive number 765. Among the fans was a 5-year-old boy named Gavin Steele.
Railroads inspire us for many reasons, but for some, they are the very thing that makes life worth living. Enter Gavin Steele, the only child to be diagnosed with both cystic fibrosis and DeGeorge syndrome. Connected through social media, Gavin's father, Jason, reached out to me in 2014. In his message, Jason told me that Gavin loved watching my YouTube videos during his lengthy hospital stays and medical treatments. The long, sometimes painful breathing treatments that Gavin uses to clean his lungs can last for over 30 minutes, and my railroad videos helped him pass the time.
Trains, for some reason, have always captivated him and kept him going. He's gone through a lot. He had open heart surgery when he was 6 weeks old. Gavin and Drayton, have the same passion, the same love for trains, and have finally come together. And with this Nickel Plate Road 765, a very historic, large steam train.
To see him growing up and literally being a little warrior, it's just really inspiring, and the fact that what I do helps him get through all the literal crud that he has to go through in life, it kind of makes everything that I do worth it.
Hi, buddy. Can you say hi? It's not going to make any loud noises right now, so you don't have to hold your ears. I'm going to be the engineer today on that steam engine. I'm driving it. Put her there, buddy. You got to shake my hand. Shake his hand. Shake his elbow. I got an idea. What do you say, instead of just chasing the train, why don't you get on the train and ride the train? No. Yeah.
You want to ride on the train? Yeah. Can you say thank you very much? Can you give him a hug?
You're welcome, buddy.
Give him a hug.
I'll give you a hug if you're able to keep your hands up. That's all right.
Thank you so much. You will.
Through my relationship with the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society, Gavin and Jason were able to ride behind Nickel Plate Road 765 from Buffalo to Corning, New York on the Erie Limited. This was the first real train ride Gavin had ever been on, and what better way to experience it than behind a steam locomotive. After riding behind the 765, our story was told by several local news stations. Through a GoFundMe campaign and promotional coverage by the news stations, my subscribers learned about Gavin and were inspired to help raise enough money for Gavin and his family to attend Operation North Pole, an event that would change my life forever.
Oh, the train idea was real easy.
Yeah.
We didn't have a plane any longer, when we left United, so we needed a transportation system to get to the North Pole.
The first year that we did it, we just used a regular revenue train. So we were among the rest of the passengers that were on the Metro train, and we were just in one car.
Operation North Pole is a Chicagoland nonprofit organization that gives children with life-threatening illnesses and special needs a train ride to a winter wonderland. The event is put on by Metra and Union Pacific, along with hundreds of volunteers that include local fire, EMS, and police first responders. Since 2014, I have had the honor of producing the official event videos for the organization. It's an incredible experience to partake in Operation North Pole, and I would encourage anyone interested in helping to volunteer or donate. You won't regret it.
So basically everything I'd ever made or produced up to that point, nothing compares to being able to do that for Gavin. At the time when all this was going on, I was saving my pennies for school. Liberal arts college at a private university out of state is not cheap. So basically every penny I made went to school, and I really wanted to do something special for Gavin. And at the time when all this was going on, I want to say my channel went from a few hundred subscribers to about 25,000 in about 3 years. So I had a pretty big following, and this following really allowed me to build a relationship with my audience. It was kind of like a personal connection. I go to train shows, I have young kids that'll come up to me and be like, "Are you Delay in Block?" And I'm like, "Do I know you?" But it's cool because people know who you are, and genuinely they are interested in your life, and that's what social media does. So when I told my subscribers about Gavin and his mental conditions, he's the only child ever in history to be diagnosed with 2 of these illnesses at once. He's had all these open heart surgeries, and during these breathing treatments, he'd watch my videos, and his dad got in touch with me through Facebook and just said, "We love what you do." So I wanted to give back, and the only way I was able to do that was through GoFundMe. So this site, basically you can donate to different causes. A lot of creators use a site called Kickstarter for freelance films and whatnot, but GoFundMe is really for like personal, nonprofit type stuff. So we started a GoFundMe campaign, and my subscribers were able to raise enough money to send Gavin and his entire family to Operation North Pole. And that was just, that was so cool. And the organization bought everybody in his family presents. Like every kid got $300 in presents. If you haven't shot that train, go shoot it. It will change your life. It is amazing. And then also Fort Wayne, I just wanted to speak on steam locomotives in general. They are the closest thing that humankind has ever come to creating a living, breathing thing. And they really inspire us for so many different reasons. And to me, that engine, it really is a miracle worker in a lot of ways. It takes people's mind off of stress, anxiety. It inspires us to go see places that we've never been to. And in Gavin's case, it really actually helps him get through life. So for me, steam locomotives are just, they're really cool. So the last and final segment is about building a brand in this new era of social media. My generation, we don't really argue about stay bolts on train orders. We argue in the YouTube comments. So here's the final section.
Since starting Delay in Block Productions in 2011, my YouTube channel has grown immensely. When I first started out, I had no idea where my hobby would take me. After 6 years of shooting, editing, narrating, and writing, my YouTube channel has become somewhat of a hub for online railroad media. With over 31,000 YouTube subscribers, over 20,000 Facebook followers, and a presence on Instagram and Twitter, Delay in Block has become a brand, much like Pentrex in the 80s and 90s. In this new age of digital media, you don't buy anything to view the program. You simply sit through a short advertisement before the video plays in your internet browser, which helps content creators like me earn a living, pay for school, or purchase new equipment for making videos. And not only that, subscriber feedback and instant communication allows us to create even better content. Subscribers expect regular video uploads throughout the month and often give feedback on different railroads they would like to see featured on my channel. Loyal subscribers who want to contribute even further support Delay in Block through crowdfunding at patreon.com. Simple $1 subscriptions help me create premium content, like my Hoosier Keystone digital download on delayinblock.com. Through this new social media age of the hobby and industry, I've met some of my best friends who I otherwise wouldn't have had an opportunity to meet, all because of this wonderful thing called Facebook. It's no telling where the next 5 years will lead me, but so far I've enjoyed every bit of it. From my first experiences trackside with my grandmother to my recent projects with the Everett Railroad and the Lake State Railway, I've come a long way and will continue pursuing the big goal that I had set in high school, to produce the best railroad videos on the internet. I'd like to thank the Center of Railroad Photography and Art for inviting me to speak at this year's event. It's an honor to be here, and I've enjoyed sharing my story with you. If you'd like to see more of my work or have a business inquiry, visit www.delayinblock.com for more information.